What's up, everybody? Welcome to iOS 3 Raw TV. Well, 2019 is here, and it's about time to get some new information out there that something I've been working on for quite a while. It's been about at least the last year that I've actually been working on this. And it is basically I have come up with a theory. Now, I know right now you guys will be like, oh, Jerry, here we go. Jerry's fucking theories. This ought to be good. Just bear with me. I've been really studying L-Carnitine a lot lately, because L-Carnitine in any form, we'll go specifically the regular L-Carnitine form, for the last, I've been doing this since I was 15. So I started taking supplements at 16. So yeah, anyways, I'm 43 now. Anyways, for that period of time, my go-to has always been L-Carnitine. And every single time I've used it in that time, I've seen an effect from it. I've seen results from it. It's my go-to with clients forever. And it is the old school thing that I think has been lost over time. And now what happens is people, they want the high stim fat burners. They want these other things that are like extreme, that wire them out of their skulls and shit. They're not realizing that L-Carnitine helps actually mobilize and transport fatty acids and is important for metabolism. Now, there has been a pushback from the scientific community saying basically unless you take L-Carnitine supplementally with either shooting insulin or high glycemic carbs, that it does nothing. There's zero effect. And then what happens is they point to these studies. And they always point to the studies that show no effect with L-Carnitine. And they're so happy with themselves that they found something that disproves something that people have been using forever and working, that they could say, see, it doesn't work, it's bullshit, it's not that's working. It's like the guy's like, this is all that I'm taking and it's working great. No, it's not, it's placebo, it's this, it's that. And the scientific community like to point to whatever's in that paper or that study or that data as being gospel, and that's the only thing that rules the world is what's exactly in that. They never stop to think that that might be the beginning of something that is just step one. And there's about 7 more steps before this thing is finished, and they're making fun of people very early without having the whole big picture. Now, what the fuck am I talking about? Okay, so if L-Carnitine has worked so well for me and others that I've known, and throughout the years I've studied it, I've used it, why is it that some people don't respond to it? So I went to the study, and actually there were people in those studies that supposedly the L-Carnitine didn't work, that it did work on. They did see improvements on. They saw more than a placebo effect in these individuals. But it wasn't the majority of what was going on in the study. So it was like, if you have 30 people and 3 of them actually get results and it's not placebo, then they go, well, it's just they don't count. Well, why don't they count? What is going on? Now we should take those 20 and say, okay, here's the deal. Why do these 20 get it and these 3, why do these 20 don't get any results? Or why do these 3 get results? Well, how is this possible and why? Because if it was one person, I'd say genetic outlier or whatever, maybe. 2 people, that's kind of interesting, this 2. 3, it's like, okay, something has been replicated 3 times that wasn't in the rest of the other people that were in the study. So why is it those 3 people still got results? If it really doesn't work, then across the board it shouldn't work. It's like having the wrong key to a lock. If the wrong key, if you have a key to the lock and it's not the right key, it doesn't matter how many, it doesn't work 3 out of 30 times. It just doesn't work. So why does that key work for them that 3 times? Not studied. Completely not studied, because now you're going to have to go way more in depth. And I think it's going to be harder. And I hope to God that scientists, doctors, PhDs, whatever, researchers, whatever you want to call them, actually look into what I'm going to talk about right now. But be aware, guys, many things that I've come up with in the past that made sense to me, that were logical, that people thought were crazy, turned out to be true. As science caught up, it turned out to be true. So I'm going to throw this out there right now, and I don't know if I'm the first one, but I've never heard this before. No one's ever said this to me before. I searched it, I researched it, I looked it up. I could not find out any information about what I'm about to talk about right now. The L-Carnitine thing. As I'm going through this data and this research, looking at it, knowing my personal results and clients' in-field results as well as the studies and the data, I realized something. There's kind of a parallel between 2 other things, 2 other nutrients that bodybuilders have been using in the last 10 years that had the same type of effect. Some people got results and some people didn't. And it was very random. One of the other things is creatine. There are people that are quote-unquote creatine non-responders. And there has been no actual evidence as to why this happens. Just some people take creatine, they see results right away. Other people take creatine, they don't see anything, like literally nothing. Not even a placebo from it. So you have literally both ends of the spectrum, right? And everything in between, but there's still a lot of variance person to person, right? Another nutrient, which people bust my balls about to this day, Biogrow. the bioengineered peptides that Isotori had put out. Now, I don't know what their formula is like today, but when I used it, it worked very well for me. Now, we're going to get into why I think this is happening. So some people that used the Biogrow got great results and they loved it. Other people use it and saw nothing, talked bad about it, put it online, and then it got a bad rep that it does nothing. But you still have creatine, carnitine, and Biogrow, all three nutrients that some people respond to and some don't. And it's very clear that some do and some don't. Why is that possible? So with the creatine and the Biogrow both, I found, or it was my theory, and we'll start with the Biogrow first. So I took IGF-1 before. I took the Increlex type, which was the pharmaceutical type way long time ago. I took the LR3, I took the DES. I've taken all the different types. And what I got from that was a very good pump all the time. I felt very pumped. I felt very full. As far as growing real muscle tissue, I don't think it really does that. I'll be totally honest with you, I really don't feel that IGF-1 does, because I didn't maintain any of that muscle mass remotely when I stopped taking it. So it's much more fluid, because the weight comes on quick. You do get leaner, but it's more, I feel like it's more fluid retention in the muscle, like sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. I feel that's what it really is. So when you come off the IGF, you kind of deflate. That's just how it is, right? So why would I respond to Biogrow similarly, not in as much a response, but why do I have a similar response to it? The only thing that I can point out personally, and it comes from my own personal blood work, is I have naturally low IGF levels to begin with. So therefore, when you supplement something as a supplement, so if you have low vitamin D and you take vitamin D, you see the levels go up. If your vitamin D levels are high, you don't need it. And if you take it, it goes too high. You don't see any better results health-wise. Matter of fact, it could be toxic if you get too much, if your body retains a certain amount of vitamin D. It's the same exact thing. If my body is producing a small amount of IGF-1, I then supplement, add in the Biogrow, it actually raises your IGF levels, you see results. Interesting. But the person next to me who took it didn't see results. Why? Their IGF, they haven't been tested, but their IGF levels are higher. Therefore, when you supplement with it, you don't see the same results. It's like this. If you took somebody who had a testosterone level of 150, now 200 to 800 is now the new testosterone range. And so somebody like an older guy, right? So you had 150 was his level. And you gave him a testosterone booster that actually raises testosterone. And it goes from 150 to like 225. He's going to see a difference and actually feel better. He's actually going to see results on that testosterone booster that 18-year-old took that had a natural level of 900. And when he took it, it barely budged it. And he didn't see anything with it. He naturally had higher testosterone level. That 18-year-old, when he's 65, if he takes that testosterone booster, is going to see a difference from it when his levels have dropped. So it's all about supplementing what your body normally doesn't have. And if you have naturally high levels of something, when you supplement it, you don't see the results. Creatine is the exact same thing. I don't know because I haven't had my actual creatine phosphate levels tested of my whole body, right? You get your creatine, your creatinine levels and stuff tested, but the creatine levels themselves haven't been tested on me. But when I take creatine, I see results. When I go off it, I deflate. So therefore, my body responds to it. I'm willing to bet you $1 million right now that my creatine levels stored naturally, and maybe it's because I don't eat a lot of red meat, I don't know, but I don't have a lot of creatine phosphate stored in the muscles. Therefore, when I take creatine monohydrate, it creates more storage of creatine, which turns into creatine phosphate, and then my body's able to use it, and I see the results. Let's go to carnitine. I've never had carnitine levels tested. I'm not really sure how you would even do that, but L-Carnitine levels in your body, if you have enough in your body to function and you add it, you're not going to see a whole much in return of that. However, if your L-Carnitine levels are lower, despite the fact that many people say it doesn't work, well, maybe L-Carnitine in most people is high already. I don't know. But I literally have been able to replicate it time and time again. So I have a theory that more people are deficient in L-Carnitine in the general public than are fully, I don't want to say stocked up, but fully enhanced of L-Carnitine, meaning that their body produces a lot of it naturally. Therefore, it works better for those people. So now I'm going to step back and I go, maybe this is actually why a lot of these supplements that are vitamin-wise, hormone-wise, pro-hormone-wise, because vitamin D is a hormone, pro-hormone-wise, like, you know, there are people that have low testosterone, take a pro-hormone, they're going to see great results. The guy that already has naturally high levels, not as good results. All these things we've been talking about, how some people stand up and go, this doesn't work, it's bullshit, because they tried it. And another person swears up and down, signs an affidavit, takes a lie detector test that it does. Why is there such a variance? I do feel like this is the problem. The problem is each individual is different. And when you look at these studies, there's always going to be these, you know, these very few that actually don't, it's not a placebo. They're actually getting results from it. The placebo groups get nothing. These people get 3 or 4 or 5 people that actually respond, and there's 60 people that don't. These people that are responding actually are the people that their bodies were deficient in those nutrients, that their bodies didn't store a lot of those nutrients. Therefore, their bodies now are being raised to normal levels, or at least higher than what was before, to where the body can function more properly by having those nutrients raised to the normal healthy levels. So now I step back and I'm like, okay, people that, like, here's another thing, L-Carnitine, they say, well, it doesn't work because you have to have insulin included, da 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 da. There are people that even at rest, when they're not eating anything, they're not moving around or whatever, have naturally higher insulin levels than people who don't. There are people who have blood sugar crashes constantly if they don't eat for 2 hours, right? Their bodies, and it's not about what they ate. They could eat completely clean carbohydrates, added fat to the meal, added protein to the meal, and still have a blood sugar crash an hour after they had that meal. Why? Because their body is secreting more insulin than the average person. The average person can eat that meal and wait 3 or 4 hours and they'd be fine. This person keeps having blood sugar crashes. Their body's producing more insulin. Therefore, if that person takes L-Carnitine, they're going to see more of a response than the person who has naturally lower insulin levels. Like it was like, it almost was like right in my face as I'm looking at it, like the answer was right there. And I'm like, holy shit, it's the difference in people. That's what they're not taking into account in the studies. Yes, they're taking into account age and height, sex, this and that, but body chemistry is not something they're taking into account. Personal, individual body chemistry and metabolism, they're not taking that into account with many of these studies that they do. And until they do, they're not going to know how this shit works, period. This is like going to get one of those genetic tests. Like, I had one of those genetic tests done a few years ago, and it basically told me what I learned from experimenting, right? So before we go out scientifically and start testing people's levels and stuff like that, what's going to happen is what I'm doing right now. Learning by failing, learning by doing, learning over and over again by trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle and putting them together so that by the time science catches up and says, oh yeah, we tested this person, he has naturally higher insulin levels, therefore L-Carnitine works well with him. Well, I just figured that out this week. You know what I mean? So what time is going to tell whether or not they actually do these studies like this, because I couldn't find anything. And I'm like, that's interesting. They're saying like you have to have a high glycemic carbohydrate in order to get the L-Carnitine to work better. And when or if you inject insulin. What about the people that have naturally higher insulin levels? Did they do a study on them with the L-Carnitine to see if it worked? No. And I'm like, this is the problem. Many of these studies are done and it's a general outlier, which I understand that. You know, they want the general public. They just want general information to see how things work. But nowadays, people have become, I want to say, so complex with their metabolisms. I know people don't believe this. The calories in and calories out crew, they don't believe this. They believe that everything is so fucking simple, right? But the calories in and out crew won't even understand what the fuck I'm talking about right now. They'll be like, it'll be so far above their fucking heads that they'll be like, that's fucking stupid. Just eat less calories. Just don't take L-Carnitine. Just don't. They dumb it down because they themselves don't understand how individual each person is. You can give one person 500 milligrams of testosterone, another one 500, have them do the same workouts, they're the same size, same age, everything. One person is going to respond different than the other. Why? Individual body chemistry and metabolism. Not the fact that, well, you ate 1 more gram of protein. No, you monitor those motherfuckers in a room. You sit them in a room just like they do out the camel crew. You sit them in a fucking room, you feed them, you personally make the food and feed those motherfuckers every day. You personally take them to the fucking gym every day, train them, make them sleep. You're with them 24 hours a day for this study for 12 weeks. Both of those individuals will get 2 different results, no matter what the fuck you do. You know why? Because they're different individuals. Even the amount of androgen receptors for the drug is going to be different from individual to individual. And that was another thing. They showed that L-Carnitine taken in certain amounts increases androgen receptors. Like, it actually increases the androgen receptor modulation in individuals, right? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's another thing saying, like, let's say somebody who naturally has more androgen receptors than the other person takes L-Carnitine and takes their testosterone, they don't see much difference. Let's say the other guy who has less androgen receptor modulation to begin with takes the insulin, takes the L-Carnitine with their testosterone, and they see tenfold what the other guy did. You know why? Because different people. And the only way that you're going to know is if you get your systems tested. Like, figure out how much creatine's in. I don't know, because there's like formulas. Rather than taking like a biopsy and measuring it, and I don't even know if it's even possible to measure how much creatine you have stored in your entire body. I don't even know if that's possible. But that is the next step towards understanding why some of these things work and some of them don't. It's like trying to give somebody the wrong antibiotic for something. Like, you have to give them the right antibiotic for what the fuck is going on with them, right? Which means that if you don't know my individual chemistry, when you go to give them L-Carnitine, you don't know if it's going to work, right? You could give them the wrong thing. Instead of L-Carnitine, you could be giving them, instead of acetyl L-Carnitine or something. Instead, maybe that one works better because their body works a different way. Like, there's so much that people don't understand, and it is so fucking complicated. And I'm so tired of people. In 2019, it's going to be double middle fingers to every one of these motherfuckers that just dumb it down to calories in, calories out. It's like, look, I get that people get results counting calories and shit. I get that people say, oh, I don't want to waste my money in this, that, or the other thing. But here's the deal. Aren't you curious to see how much better you can be faster? Don't you want to shorten the period of time for your results? Don't you want to work less, like work not as hard to get the same results than having to fucking kill yourself and get slow results? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. In 2019, we have everything in our fucking hand in that phone. We are so smart we can make a fucking actual living brain computer that we hold in our hand, right? We can talk to people on the other side of the fucking world. We go to the fucking moon. We can basically replicate anything. We're making fucking body parts via 3D printers now and fucking implanting them on people. We can create body parts. But you're trying to tell me that we can't figure out how to use L-Carnitine. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense that why we should get slow gains, slow fat loss. We are in an age where we know enough to be efficient and optimal and increase results faster. But the problem is people are not ready for that. Many people, they're not ready to hear. They may not respond to it because their body already has it in it. Therefore, they're not going to get the results the other person does. That makes them feel bad. It's all about feelings nowadays. It's crazy. So hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about right now with the body saturation levels of certain things and how you're going to respond to supplementing something. You know, it is going to vary wildly from person to person, but there are so many genetic outliers that it is very clear that if more than a couple people respond to something in a study, it gets wiped under the carpet. I think it's actually time to start looking at those people and saying, we're going to run batteries of tests on these motherfuckers and find out why they responded. Instead, they just get done away with it and they go, here you go, guys, here's the fucking results. It's like, that's not all the results. Those are some of the results, but here's the rest of them. What about these motherfuckers? Because I want to happen to me what happened to them. How does that fucking happen? Until we study that, the actual truth of how this shit works will never be known. BioStrengthTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostrength.com is a blog. It's a We Don't Know Bicep, and we are out.